Hey guys, here we are on another laser install, this time a 3,000 watt Ori machine with an air compressor, and we're heading up to Corinth, Mississippi, which is in the northeast part of the state, and up to Dickerson Industrial Services up there. And my contacts are Tweet Shane Garvin and also Todd Dickerson, who kind of runs the show, the main man. So one of the things I loved about this is you see a few pictures of me getting loaded up here and getting ready to head up. And then here we are getting ready to unload at their shop. So it was about a 9-hour drive from Dallas up there. But I wanted to share, while you're looking at a few of the pictures of unloading here in video, what I loved about this deal. These guys contacted me and had a couple of questions. We did a 1 hour or less, probably like even 30, 45-minute phone call, talked about a lot of different things about the machine. And within 2 days after that, they wired the complete payment. And then within 2 weeks after that, they had a machine running and installed. And just today, actually, which was about a few days after the install, they got their first order for 300 parts. So, I get a lot of guys that will contact me and ask me a million questions over 6 months, a year, just sort of like nervous. And you got guys like this that do not mess around. It's like, we're going to pull the trigger. We're going to get this done. We're not going to hash out over $1,000 for this, or do we need this option or that option? Just going to pull the trigger and get it done and get this thing in here and get it making money. And you can always kind of tell like a more established, experienced business guy versus someone, a little more uneasy. I'm happy to work with anybody. I just wanted to share this example of, when people get ready to set their mind to something and get something done, that it can get done. Yeah, sorry about the rant there, going on and on about that. I got, all the customers that have bought from me have been great, and in some cases in the past, I've not had machines in stock. I now no longer have any in stock. They're all sold, and I got more on order that hopefully will be here in not in the not too distant future. So what you're looking at here is the air compressor getting unloaded, and we'll show a little more video of that running and wired up and some details about it shortly. And here's a little look around their shop. It's as you can tell, it's a massive facility. I think it's around 100 to 110 wide by 220 long. So yeah. And anyway, just kind of scanning around, show you some of the machines they've got, some of the projects they've got going on in there. A lot of industrial services, pipe fitters, welding, some machining work, fab projects in the shop. They've got several manufacturing facilities near them that they do fab projects and install projects, and just you name it, they do it for the customers in their area. You can see some of the stainless pipe fitting and welding they got going on here. And then here's a look at the air compressor unboxed and going into place. And here's the machine getting positioned around in its final location. They had 2 smaller forklifts there, and the main problem was the length of the forks. Neither one of them had, I don't believe, forks long enough to reach all the way under. So we unloaded it with 2 forks, as you saw earlier, and then got it down on these heavy-duty dollies to get it rolled and pushed into position. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. And the first thing that came out of the gate here was we ended up with a situation, and I need to do a little better job of qualifying these. You see we got 340 volt output right there, and we should have 380 volt. And the main reason for that is that we ended up with only 208 3-phase versus 240 volt. So ended up having to go ahead and get another transformer, and the customer took care of that and had one overnighted in, and we got the right one in place, and within a day we had the right one and the right output voltage, and the machine was happy about that. So just looking at the air compressor here, showing some of the details. This is 3-phase 240. This has VFD input, so it will it will support a range of input voltages. So the main wiring there you see is in the front of the machine. And then in addition to that, these air compressors have drying and 5 stages of desiccant. Each one of the desiccant canisters, as you'll see, has an auto drain valve on it with timers, and those open up on a 5-minute interval. So they're constantly opening. So the dryer and those drain valves have separate wiring, and they take a 20 amp 110 volt outlet for that, and that will run all of them off of 120 amp circuit. So three phase 240 volt, you need about 50 amps at 240 to run it, and then the 110 to run the rest of it. So this is a 20 bar 290 psi compressor, 20 horsepower, 3-phase motor, 15 kilowatt air end on it, and produces 40-50 CFM at 290 psi. It's no joke. And you can just see some of the panels showing the wiring here, requirements, the dryer, and then there's the motor plate for it. Ran into a little problem right out of the gate with the chiller. It was producing a weird error message, and ended up just being a loose connection on the panel there, and we got that situated, and then just showing some of the connection on the laser head, got it all mounted, and lots of plumbing, lots of wiring into that thing. And you want to double check and make sure you got it all routed correctly. The input and output for all the cooling, is flowing the correct way. And this one's all set and ready to go. Yeah, so looking at the very first part off the machine right there, and the way I work this is I immediately hand the remote to the customer and let the customer just start running the machine immediately. And then while we are dialing in the machine and really fine-tuning the parameters, cleaning up some of the cuts and whatnot, I'll just let the customer drive the machine and kind of guide them on how we need to tweak the numbers to get the kind of results that we're looking for. So right here we were working on the compensate feature, which is how you offset for kerf. And these machines by default do not offset for kerf. They cut right on the line, and you have to manually set that for each part. So how much kerf offset do you need? Well, it depends. It depends on what cutting gas, how thick the material is, what nozzle you got in there. And then here is a little gauge that we cut out to kind of see. We cut one out of aluminum, and we cut one out of carbon steel 1/4-inch hot roll plate. And you'll see kind of as a go no go gauge with a 1/2-inch bolt. There's the one out of aluminum, and it had a very, very small kerf that it took. I think maybe about 5 thou, 6 thou. And then this one was more than that, probably about 12 or 14 thou. And you see it's starting to go, not go, and then this one here for sure did not go. So yeah, this is Tweet, and he's the main, let's say, metal art guy, also CAD CAM designer, and was in charge of the plasma table, but also does safety and a lot of other things there. But he was the main contact and the main guy going to be running the laser. And he reports to Todd, who is, as I mentioned, the top dog in charge there. So, and here we are cutting some 3/4-inch plate and doing a little ring cut there to kind of preserve the corners the best you can. 3/4 inch is the very max that you can cut in carbon steel on a 3 kilowatt laser. So it's pretty well maxed out, and it's a decent cut for what it is. But also keep in mind that at the very max of any material for a laser, the cut is not going to be really that great. So we have the cut order out of sync right there. You see it cut the outside out first. And this is a learning, you know, we're training as we go. We're dialing in and training all at the same time. And so there's a look at the result on 3/4 inch. And pretty much the backside of it's clean, you know, maybe just a tiny little bit of burr on there, but really nothing to speak of. And that was some pretty nasty plate as well. So all right, so unloading the 3/4 inch, which is pretty much the thickest that we can cut on this machine, and then we're going to quickly follow that up with the thinnest, and that's going to be 20 gauge. I mean, we can cut way thinner than that, but just for the purposes of dialing in the machine, that was the thinnest that we went with here. And this is a 5x10 sheet of 20 gauge, and you can see it's a little unwieldy to deal with, but you know, got it on there, no problem. Take a little look at the air compressor now starting up, and these things have VFD start on them, so very slow ramp up, and really helps with the power bill, with the loading and unloading, so you don't have the hard start, you know, that's normally associated with this type of screw compressor, so you'll hear the gradual startup. And this was the first real paying job that came in while we were there. I think this is on day 2 of getting the thing running and dialed in. This is a piece of 1/4 inch hard ox, and making some parts for a local customer, and you'll see it cutting here in a second. And I'm gonna let you just watch some of the cutting, and we'll wrap it up here shortly with some 20 gauge cutting that I think you'll like to see. You had some little remnant in your drawing or something. We'll have to go pull the drawing up and look at it. So I think he ended up cutting about 3 sheets of this hard ox, and we did 2 of them on one evening, and then he came back in super early the next morning, and I think I got there by about 7:15, and he had already had the other one cut by the time I got there. So it actually cut it pretty good. Anytime you get a high carbon steel content, for those other laser operators out there, you need to kind of slow it down a little bit compared to regular carbon steel, like say A36 hot rolled, and then you need to go to the next size up nozzle. So if you're, you know, using a 1.5 for a 1/4 inch hot rolled, you'd go to a 2 millimeter, and that'll usually take care of any kind of issues. But pretty smoky, pretty sparkly cutting, you know, any kind of high carbon content. You can see the smoke come up there, and yep. And there's the finished part. I don't remember the final dimensions on this actual part, but it was about 6 or 7 feet long, and 3 or 3.5 feet wide, and had a series of holes in it. I'm just getting it unloaded. About 90% of the time on any parameter related issue, I can almost always nail it pretty quickly. So this one right here was a hard case and gave me some difficulty. And in fact, I had to actually reach out to Ori, who makes the machine, and get a little help from their engineers, and we were able to finally get it. But cutting this 20 gauge, it would sort of like, you'll notice here that it occasionally would not cut all the way through. And it was a little bit inconsistent in the way it was doing it. But we got it tweaked in. You'll see some 20 gauge cut here in a minute and the look of it. And you can see right here when I zoom in the little bad cuts, you know, where it would just sort of weld itself back together. And again, take a look at it once we got it tweaked. So we had an overactive oil pump to begin with here, and you can see the way oil that is pumped into the linear bearings is on a timer. And if you let the machine sit around for a long time, you know, while you're loading, or in our case, we were training and doing different things, it'll just keep pumping oil. So we had to tweak it down a little bit, and we got that taken care of. Looks like it's cutting easy. All right, so that was last week, and now we're back at the shop, and gonna get the next one sent out. This is actually, both of these will be going out in the next 2 weeks or so. This one, well, first of all, I was gonna show, ended up with 2 sets of leveling feet in this one here. So there's one set right there. And then here's another set that was also in here. So the one in the video you just saw, we didn't have the leveling feet for it there. So I'm gonna be getting that to them. And so this one here is gonna go out to Niagara Falls, New York, to Sean. And then the other one over there is going to San Diego, California, out there to Ken and the crew out there. So plenty to do. So these 2 are both sold. And then I got more. I just placed an order for more. So we'll get those in and get going with that. So if you're interested in one of these machines, or a press brake or anything like that, an air compressor, I still have, I think, one in stock. Send me an email to the address on the screen. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.